everyone, I'm back again. I'm going to work on the video for the Corny treats. As we all know, I had troubles today on my live. Still can't get the camera to work with my live. I have no idea what's going on. So I'm going to do this by video for you. So first off, I'm going to go over all the supplies that we are going to use today. And first off, if you can hear all those are the water bombers flying overhead. Big fire up on the hill. Hopefully I can still stay here. Life is good. So anyway, to start with, this is a project that I am doing with the dual brush markers, the Tombow dual brush markers. And the reason I'm using the dual brush markers is my favorite product to normally use when I do stamps and doodles and stuff would be to use the DecoArt fluid acrylics and matte mediums and create, you know, these nice vibrant colorful pieces. And I use the fluid acrylics because they are transparent. Now with the pandemic and all the lockdowns and different things that have happened with the with production of product, is that DecoArt had to make a decision on the products that they would continue to make. And unfortunately, the fluid acrylics, although a popular product, was not one that they really could justify putting stoppage on other products that were available to continue to make them during the pandemic. So what that did is it led me to kind of look at different options, different things that I wanted to do when I did my coloring. And the reason I like to use the transparency is the stamps, the doodles. I love the lines. It's all about the liner work. So I want a transparent product. So even when DecoArt is doing full production of the fluid acrylics, they can be difficult to get as well. And that also led me to think that what can I do that would give me the same effect without creating too much trouble and expense and things like that, for especially us decorative painters, that we don't want to go out and buy a ton of other supplies, but we do want availability of things that we can use. So I started playing with different things, different ideas. I do use the regular DecoArt acrylics. I work with the colors that are more transparent, so higher in pigment, and I can float and shade with them and create little washes and get a similar look. But I find it takes a lot of time and a lot more layers to get the look that I want. So that led me then to looking at watercolor. Watercolor is there's a lot more work involved. There's a learning curve with watercolor in the way that I want to use it, because I like to float. I still want to paint. So watercolor is out of the question, although I am working on it and having some success. So that led me again to look at different options. And then I found the Tombow markers. These guys. They're a water-soluble marker. They work like watercolor in how you move them. They move very nicely with water on watercolor paper. And they are very affordable. You can pick up a set, like these individual sets. This is the Bright palette. It's what I recommended for this project. And they're very affordable. You can pick them up at just about any craft store. You can pick them up at Amazon. You can pick them up. Various different stores will carry them. Even paper crafting stores may carry them as well. And TombowUSA.com. I live in Canada and I get my order from them within like 4 days. It's just amazing. Free shipping quite often. You can't go wrong. Sales like you wouldn't believe. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to play with this and see what I can create. So I did. So this is a set, Canada, I can probably pick them up on sale for maybe $24.99, but I know in the US you could probably pick them up for like $18 or something. Dirt cheap. Just amazing. And we're going to use them like watercolor. So I've got a couple of different brushes that I'll use. I do like my little angle shaders because I like to float everything, and I can float with these. And water brushes. Now water brushes are a little bit of a learning curve to the water brushes, but they can be fun. So we're going to play with them today as well. I'm going to show you, with and without. And basically all you need is these. If you're not comfortable with the water brushes, you can work with a small round. Even flats, you can go into like a small flat brush. You can work with rounds. So many different options. but I'm just going to play with these today because that's what I wanted to show you. And because we're not using mediums and, you know, mixed media paper and that sort of thing, we are going to use watercolor paper. So we don't need any mediums, don't need any special product, just our pens and our papers. My favorite pen, of course, is my Microns because I'm working straight on paper. I'm not using any mediums. I don't need to add the Identa pen in this case. If I don't want to, I can. And it's certainly, you know, if you've got the Identa pens and you don't have the Microns, definitely use an Identa pen. It's going to do exactly the same thing, but I'm just obsessed with my Microns. I just love them. And because nothing is going to bother the Microns, water won't move it, nothing will, we're going to use a Micron. Another product that you're going to want in order to transfer your pattern on is the Sorel wax-free paper. This is wax-free, so as opposed to our regular paper that we would normally use for transferring, our graphite paper, this has no wax on it. Graphite paper does. And graphite paper, when you use, you can trace it, you get a nice design. When you start inking it with your pens, the pen will eventually start buildup of that wax. And once it gets that buildup of the wax, you can end up, the pen looks like it's going to run out. So, I mean, you can fix it just by running it off on a piece of paper. That's not a problem. But the Sorel, you won't have that issue. Plus, you won't get really dark lines either. This is what I like about it. You get nice fine lines. It erases very well with your Factus black eraser, or in my case, I love to use my little, I love these. These are General's kneaded erasers. I just love them because you just pull them apart and twist them and turn them back into whatever you want. But it erases beautifully without creating any, you know, residue on the page. So my personal favorite, General's Kneaded Eraser. Comes in a little square and you get to make a little ball out of it, which is a lot of fun. And then you can play with it. And you end up with a whole bunch because they tend to roll under things. They do on me anyway. And then I have to get a new one. But I just love them. So one of those. And that's pretty much all you need. And then, of course, you're going to need a stamp set. Because this is what I call one of my Stampendoodles. I like to create a line drawing, and from that line drawing, we'll transfer the page on, but then we're going to need stamps to fill in all the little elements. It's just kind of bringing the two worlds together, which I really enjoy. So I do sell the kits on my website. I still have a few left if you want to make this project. You can also just make the project. If you've got some other Halloween stamps, you can incorporate those into it as well, because I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to need your basic stamping block, of course, and I've already got my little candy corns on there, and ink pads. So normally when I do my, my mixed media, my Stampin' Doodles, if I'm going to do that on mixed media paper where I want to add lots of layers of paint and stuff, I'll use StazOn or the Ranger Archival, and the reason for that is once I start adding mediums, they're permanent. These are solvent based, they're permanent, they won't smudge, they won't do anything crazy or weird. But because we're working just on on watercolor paper, you can use your StazOn ink. You already got it, it's perfect, it'll create everything we need to do. But you can also use the other inks as well if you have them. This is one of my personal favorites, Versaclair. They're pigment inks. You can use any pigment ink with watercolor, colored pencil, the markers, and even paint, as long as you don't start adding mediums on top. Like the matte medium will smudge these right off the bat. You can't use this ink if you're going to put it on gessoed page or any page that's already prepped. This is strictly paper ink. So you can use either or because we're working straight off paper today. So when I started my live earlier, my cameras all froze and I could not get them back. I've deleted my software, I've reinstalled it, I could not get them back. So just to sort of go over what we had started is we did a little stamping and I was showing how the watercolor pens can be blended with my brush. So I'm going to show you, we'll kind of play around with it. We're going to do one with paint and we're going to do the other one with the water brush. So I'm going to go back to this guy, which I'd started with the pens. And what I want to point out too is the pens are numbered. So when I say like with our regular paints, I can do a pattern packet and use the Tombow markers. They will coordinate in a lot of cases with, I've got DecoArt colors that these coordinate with. So when I do write instructions going forward, I'm going to list all three. I'm going to have a conversion where you can use a DecoArt acrylic paint that would say be, in this case, I would probably use tangerine, or I would use maybe like cadmium orange hue, say, in the fluid acrylics. So I'll be able to match the color up with the other colors. So I want to give you several options to paint with so that we can create. And this is great. You just grab it and go. You've got a, you know, art in a box. So this one, I started with my orange with the 933. And it actually has a color name, and I've had to cross-reference them in a different way. I've created myself a list. And, oh yeah, the sets will come with what's called it's got a color chart with all the different colors that are available. But this is what's called a blending palette. And this is exactly the same as if you used your palette paper. So it's exactly the same. And this is great. You just wipe it off with a baby wipe or a paper towel and you just continue on. So you're not going to have this big mess of paints and piles and, you know, rub your hand through it. All the fun things that we like to do. So those two options are available. Some of the sets come with the blending palette. Some of the sets don't. So it'll usually have a big thing on the front cover. If it does have one, I believe, yeah. See, this particular set when I bought it has a free blending guide. So it'll tell you on the package if it has it. I think now you have to buy them separately, but we use palette paper and that's all we need. The palette that I'm using today is the Bright palette. I think I mentioned that already. It has pretty much all the colors that I want to use. It's got my red, my oranges, my reds, my greens, just the fun colors to do this project with. It's got purple. The only color it doesn't have, which I did like using on the ghost, was a gray. And what happens with these sets, they're all fun. They come with, you know, a set of pens. Each set will start having duplicates, and that's what you have to watch for when we buy all these sets, which I found out the hard way. So I do have a little bag of duplicates. But the nice thing is on Tombow website, you can actually order just a single pen. So when you start looking at the color choices, the Bright palette and the Galaxy palette, which is a good secondary one, you'll only end up with a couple of duplicates. The 755 is duplicated. The 493, I think that only has one that is duplicated. So it's a good secondary palette to pick up color-wise because it also comes with the gray and the black, which I really like. And the duplicates are there is no other duplicate. So you've got one duplicate. Never hurts to have an extra pen. So if you are looking at a couple of different groupings to pick up, the Galaxy and the Bright palette are your best choices for everything that I'm going to do. It's got all the colors that I need. So there. So I'm going to go back to this guy now and show you how we're blending. So I want to use it like a paintbrush. I'm going to use my angled shader, and I'm just going to do all my painting in a floating manner. And we'll just do a quick little demo here again, and then I'm going to go into my colors. I started doing the orange, which I will finish. So one of the options, of course, was to put your marker onto the blending palette or your palette paper, and keep your marker. Make sure you always put your lids back on. I'm going to get my brush as if I was going to float. Same thing. I'm going to go into my palette and just load my brush like I was going to float. You want that water. And we can paint with orange. And let's see, I'm going to get this orange here. So I'm just floating my color. The darker will stay where I put it. And then I'm just going to walk it out like as if I was shading. Same thing. So I'm getting my darker and then just walking it out to a float. Get those oranges in there and go back and add on. And every time you start to run out, just add a bit more orange with your pen. I tend to hold on to it. You can make a bigger pile, but I'm used to using small amounts, mostly because I live where it's hot. So that's how I'm putting my oranges on. Now the second option, if you have the water, is to paint it. I don't really like using the markers as though I'm painting, as a marker, because then I don't feel like I'm painting, but it actually works great. Because then you can walk that color out with the tip of your brush and get your shading and your highlight all in one. And that's what I quite like. So instead of building up your colors, you can just go like, sort of color in where your shading would be and then build out from there. And I just use the tip of my angle shader. So I really only need one brush when I'm doing these. And I think I'm going to call this a pumpkin. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to call it a pumpkin so I can fill it in. Turn my page around because, of course, I want to pull my floats towards me. And as long as it's wet, and this will only work on watercolor paper. It doesn't work this well, or really work at all. You can test different watercolor papers, but I have found that just straight onto watercolor paper works the best. So the two different ways you can do it. What I like about these as opposed to watercolor is you can actually go over them a second time. Watercolor will always rework, so you can heat set it. Which is what I've done there. And then we can go back and we can deepen any shading that we want. So say I'm going to deepen the shading on, let's go this one. I want to deepen the shading. I can color there. And as long as I don't sit and overwork it for a long period of time, I can deepen that shading and get that nice darker float in there, which is a lot of fun. Or I can put it on here, load my brush up, and go and deepen my floating. And what I like about this, that's for deepening the floating, but then I can go get my red. I can make those floats even deeper yet. We'll take it off of my palette. I didn't even need to clean my brush because there's a little bit of orange in there. Doesn't matter. And I can go and I can deepen my floats. Just like I'm loading up my brush with paint. I could do this for hours. See, I'm going to get a deeper float in here. There. My pumpkins. And I'm working on what I started this morning, but with my live, but the same thing. This is just a sample piece. So that's how I play with those. And then, I'll heat set it. You can let it air dry, but I'll heat set it just to give you an idea. Because candy corn is also got yellow. So I'm going to go into the yellow that comes with the set. Get my yellow. Make sure these lids snap on too. And these brushes should last you a long time. I can do my highlight on the back side of these and fill in my bottom yellow with the same color. So I'm getting all my candy corn colors. And same, I can do it with the marker as well. Which is great for the small pieces. When you start working on the bigger pieces, of course, then you want to, do your shading and highlighting a bit darker. But I just use the water that's in the tip of the brush and just kind of pity pat, pull those along. And see, if I was to show you that, just get my brush, work it in there, get it wet, and just kind of feather it out. That's what we're doing. See how pretty that is? You can also, like on these ones where I did the shading, is I can put yellow in for my highlights. Just brighten it up a little bit with some yellow, which is kind of fun. So that's how I paint that way. Now, I'm going to show you the other way with the water brushes. And the water brush set that you can order from Tombow, but you can also pick up just water brushes you know, from any source. You can get singles, all different sizes. But what I recommend is just sort of the one size. What I like about this set, it comes with a little one, the size that I use all the time. And I've got my well-loved one here, which has been well-loved with various colors. Needs to be washed. And the set will come with another one that is a big one for, you know, if you want to get a lot of water in. Keep those. It is recommended, if you're not going to use them for long periods of time, that you empty the water out, but I've not had any issues. Some people say you can end up with a bit of mold in here. So your brush is brand new. These are hard. Brand spanking new. To get it started, you squeeze it, little water comes out, and you just kind of work your brush out. So now I've got a wet brush. Nice and wet. Don't squeeze it anymore because you've got your water out. Okay? And then we're going to take our orange and put it out on my palette again. Now I'm just going to take my brush. If you feel it's too wet, just tap it on a piece of paper towel, but you don't have to like wipe it off. And then I'm going to load it up with the orange. And see, now my tip is orange. So I can color all my orange in. And I love this. Just like using a little liner brush. Don't squeeze, like if you were squeezing, you'd be up here. So if you're holding your brush on the lower end, you're not squeezing. And it kind of gives you a little insight into doing watercolor, getting a feel for moving paints. That you know, if you're like me, I love watercolor. I really want to learn watercolor, but I'm afraid of it because I can't control the paint. Whereas this way, I can control the paint, which is making my life just a little bit happier for getting that feel of watercolor. And you just pick up a little bit out of that palette. I'm not adding any more water, but look how fast this goes. It's all transparent, beautiful colors. I'm just going to color all these little guys in here. What else is, oh, he needs to be orange. And I'm just painting, like treating it like a paintbrush. I don't know what that is. We'll paint it orange. And every time you go back onto this palette, you can reactivate any of that paint that's dried. That's the nice thing about watercolor too. So, oh yeah, let's paint this guy in. And it's okay that it's light. We can add a second. We can add more color as needs be. Okay, so then I'll take, and then I'm just going to clean it like I would clean a normal brush. If you're not sure, like as soon as it's clean, I just cleaned it like a normal brush, didn't squeeze it or anything. So the brush is just wet like it would be as if it was a normal brush, normal paint brush. Then I'm going to put my yellow on here. Load up my yellow. Same thing. And then I can paint my yellow sections. And I don't mind putting yellow over the orange because it just makes the orange more vibrant. Which is, and this is exactly what I would do if I was using the fluid acrylics. Nothing is any different. So I'm painting like over the entire pumpkin face just to get those inside pieces yellow. Because I'm going to shade it anyway. And get the bottoms of these. It's quite light. Get a little bit more yellow. It's so fun. I find this super relaxing. I don't know if you'll find it relaxing or not, but I actually do. And I'm quite obsessed with it, really. I like trying new things, and this has been something new. Okay. So that's how I would quickly paint, just to get my base coat colors in. And then, oh, because this is all so much fun, this brush here, like if you wanted to create a fun background, I'll squeeze this brush out and get that the water flowing into it. This is the wider one. And you can wet your background if you want, which is one way of adding color, as long as you don't go into where you don't want paint to go. And then I can say take this blue, which is stunning, and I'll pick it up on here. And you can paint, it becomes like watercolor. You can actually add water, just a little squeeze of water, so you can actually work this out if you wanted to, into fading away into obscurity. So different ways to play and get a feel for other colors. Or you can just float it, which I like to do, of course, my floating. Wet your brush and it can float around the outsides to create a little background here. Even when it's wet like that, which is kind of fun. Because you can use that water as well for floating. And if you clean your brush off and it's just wet, you can actually just kind of smooth these any lines out. So this is how, just a basic quick how-to on how we're going to paint our ghost. And then I dry it. So you're actually getting a fun watercolor look, but we're painting. So that's that guy. And I'm actually gonna take this page and flip it over. So let's create a ghost, shall we? Let's create a ghost. So you get a pattern packet with your kit, and of course then you get the stamp set, which comes with the pattern packet. And we are going to take our line drawing. So I give you the basics. I give you sort of the shape, but you do need the stamps to fill in, you know, the pieces that aren't there. You're going to need the stamps. Or you can freehand, whatever. Had to sneeze, sorry. Okay, so to create this, I'm just going to put it on my paper. I know he's going to line up. Just going to hold him down because we don't need to put a lot of fancy lines on here. We just want basic lines. Then I'm going to take my paper, my Sorrel paper, and make sure you get the right side. I'm going to slide it underneath. And then I'm going to trace over it. Now you can use a pen. If you use a pen, then you know where you've been. If you don't, if you use a stylus, you don't know where you've been. So I'm going to use a pen because I want to know where I've been. So you can see your paper underneath. And of course, always keep one hand on it so you can lift. You can see that my line is going through. So I'm going to continue on. Here, get them traced on. And it's okay if it's not perfect lines because we'll fix those up when we do our pinning. And I'm going to draw this line across here because we're going to need it. Put my pumpkin in. So if you don't want to use the stamp, you can just kind of draw your own top to the pumpkin, or you can put some candies or something. You can make something up to go inside. Whatever your little heart desires. Yep. I always like to check because you just never know. So we put all the lines in, like every line. Unless you want to freehand, because you have no problem with freehanding. All the lines go in. Anything that you don't want to freehand, you put in. You can always use the picture as a guide for freehanding. And put his eyeballs in. Little mouth. And of course, just string. I'd have string holding things in there, holding them together. There we go. And again, hold it down, pull everything back, have a look so that your paper doesn't disappear. And especially it's good because this Sorrel paper isn't that dark, so you can't always line it up. Well, if you had the proper graphite paper, you probably could, but. Okay, so quick double check. Everything looks where it's, you know, he doesn't have a nose. That's what's wrong with my pumpkin. I never figure out what was wrong with my pumpkin. I forgot in here. Okay. So there's my ghost. And don't worry about any little smudgy lines because they will erase. So we start with this, and now we are going to go ahead and stamp. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my pens aside because in order to stamp, I want to have a flat piece of paper. I want it to be flat. So I'm going to take my book, because my pages don't come out of this particular book, and open it up so that it's flat. This way I can do my stamp. I don't ink until I get my stamps on. So what we want to do is we want to put these guys up here. So what I do when I've got a line and I want to mask it off is I take my sticky notes. These guys. I love sticky notes. You can use painter's tape, anything that's not going to peel, you know, finish off your paper, but sticky notes are so fun for these things. And I'm going to mask this off. Actually, no, I'm not. Because I actually want some of the pumpkins to kind of be over top. So we're not going to mask this one off. We're going to line it up to where we think he needs to go. Now, if you wanted it flush, you could mask it off. So I'm going to ink this. And I usually turn it upside down to ink just because that way I feel that I get a nice, you know, coated coverage of ink on my piece. Always cover your ink pads when you're done. And then hope for the best. Line them up. If you have a better block, my blocks are quite dirty. Yeah. And the nice thing about stamping before you do the line work is if you've made a mistake, then you don't have to worry. You can just get a new piece of paper. So there he is. Just sitting on there. And, you know, I've got a spot here where there is nothing there. Like, you can add to that after if you want. You can do whatever you want. You can make the pumpkin come up a bit higher. You can fill it in with black. So that's that guy. But then we're going to need more pieces. Go into our little stamp set. Fun part's all these fun little pieces. I just love all these little pieces. So now we've got a ghost sticking out of there. And I'm going to put, where's my ghosty? And use your picture as a guide for matching up where things go. So I've decided he's got a little ghost sticking out up here. So I'm just going to sit it on here. I know where it's going to go. I'm going to get my little stamp block. It's here somewhere. There it is. So I got a little mini stamp block. I like the different sizes because it's easier to kind of get a feel for where things are going to be placed. If you have too big a stamp block, it gets a little bit tricky. There. And I'm just going to pop him in here. Where he goes, nobody knows. He just lands in there. There. Little guy. And always put your little stamps back to the little, especially the little ones, because you don't want to lose them. And then I've got this other little guy down here, just because I felt he needed to be. It goes down there. And we'll ink him. See, because he overlaps. That's why we don't do any inking, because we want to put all the inking after we've got them all settled in there. And then, you know, he's got all these fun little phrases. So I thought it was kind of fun where it says, candy corn is my favorite vegetable. I thought that was just kind of cute. And that's going to go in this little tag. So I'm just going to put it on my little tag here just so I know where it's going to go. And just so you know, don't ink on your paper because bad things will happen. Sometimes things have a tendency to transfer where they shouldn't. But that'll work into the piece anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it. You know, sometimes things just have a habit of becoming part of the design, so nothing is ever really bad. There. And because I used the ink, the Versaclear ink as opposed to my StazOn ink, is that I want it to be good and dry. So I'm just going to heat set it just quickly to make sure it's all in there nice and dry. So I'm going to show you something here too, if you were so inclined, how to make a little mask. So I've got a gap here. I think, you know, why not? Maybe I want to stick something there. So if I wanted to stick something there, this is what I would do. I would take my big stamp, ink it, doesn't need to be perfect, and stamp a sticky note. Okay, this is how we're going to create a mask. If I wanted to create a mask to add something to an empty space, this is how I would do it. And then I'll cut. I don't need to cut out the whole thing. I only want to cut out the part that I want to protect, which is this bit down here. Doesn't need to be perfect either. And I did stamp the sticky end so that I could use the sticky end to adhere. Never needs to be perfect, just needs to be there. So what I would do is I would mask this just like that. And let's just say I wanted to put, I don't know, let's stick something down there. I think I'm going to put another ghost in here. This just shows you how much fun you can have. Make it yours. So I think he needs another ghost down there because I have an empty space. So I'm going to get my little ghosty out. How did I lose my, oh, there it is. I get my ink. So by creating a mask, the ghost is going to now be behind everything. Let's see. He's kind of hanging out there. He's playing peekaboo behind everything. So I've stamped him, but now if I peel this off, he's behind everything, which I like. So he's kind of playing peekaboo there. Make it yours. Have some fun. And dry it. Yeah. Okay. So it's dry. It won't smudge. We hope. So then, clean up my mess. Hi, Mickey. Dog's under my chair. Put my toys away. And now I'm going to get my pen. And the pen can also be used, like say here his eye didn't go complete, so I can complete in his eye. Just fill in where I feel like I've missed a spot. Add the ghost. So you can touch up any lines that won't be complete. And then start drawing. So you're just going to follow your lines. And I put all my lines in first, and then I go and I play with them. So he's got the top of him is up here. So what I'm going to do is I'll just darken this line. Just fill it in a bit. Just to, you know, give it a bit more depth to it. Then I go as far as my pumpkin that I added. Draw this line in. Here. There. And always, of course, use your picture as a guide. Because I really want you guys to make these yours. They're all fun. I've given you the bones. You make them yours. So that's how I made his mouth. And then I just drew a line, because he's got to have like teeth, right? Checkerboard teeth. And nothing ever needs to be 100% perfect. So when you ever want to do teeth and not run out, is what I'll do is I'll do this. Divide it into 4s. Divide it in half. So now into 8s. And then down the middles. Create however many teeth you want. So that's how we create those. And then when I make my little circles, I don't like to have, it was right here, where'd it go? My circle maker. I don't like to try to create my circles. I like to get my little circle maker out to give me my eyes the way I want them. Find the right size. These are just little drafting circle makers. Any Staples, any place that you can pick up drafting stuff. These are available just about anywhere. So I'll make my circles. Then I'll find my smaller one to match up with the line that I drew. In between. Make them center. And oh, why not? Let's just go really tiny. I'm like a why not kind of person. Let's just do things. You never know why, we just do them. There's no rules, really. All it is show you how to do some stuff, and then we'll just do it. And of course, he's going to need a stick. You can use a ruler, or you can just freehand it in there. He needs a stick, and I'm just going to color it in. It's got his little stick. And let's just create some ghosty lines. And these are just your first lines. Because it is Stamp and Doodle, right? Stamp, Doodle, Paint. When I did these lines, if you look on mine, I just kind of did these little sketchy lines and dots. I didn't really want a bunch of solid lines. You don't have to. I just think it was kind of fun to create little details in there. Why not? So, those are his wrinkles. I lose those when I don't put them on the end. And just kind of let the pen figure out where it wants to get all sketchy. That's what I do. If you try to follow the lines perfectly, your pen has a tendency to wander. If you kind of let your pen go where it feels natural on the paper, I find that a lot easier, and you actually get cleaner lines. In my tag. So this will be in 2 videos. It will be the Sketch and Doodle video to start, or the Stamp and Doodle video, and the second video will be the painting of it. So there will be part 1 and part 2 for this video. So first off is just get all these lines in here. So, and of course I do move my paper around a lot because, I like to pull towards me just like floating. Drawing's the same. Why try to make a line go where your hand does not naturally want it to go? So, and we're just following these lines. Just get an idea. If like the lines we will erase, they will erase wonderfully when we're done. Put his eyeballs in. And his mouth. So fun. So this, you guys, this is the first set of lines. Boring. Very, very boring. But it gets so much more fun. So what I like to do next is to go in, I like to fatten these lines. I like to kind of make them consistent a little bit, but not 100% perfect. So what I'll do is I'll do a double line. It's very, very fine. And then I fill it in. And this, it just, I don't know what it does. It just kind of creates this little different look. And the line might be a little bit wiggly just because I don't want it perfectly even. I want it to be little inconsistent. So my lines like here, like so. And same coming down. Like I might come down in here, deepen those lines a little bit. But definitely when I get down into here, I want to clean these little edges up, make them kind of fun, add a little flip to them maybe. And here where I've got a line that didn't quite match, this is how we fix these. We just go over it and fill it in, make it a little fatter than the rest. And it helps to finish the guy off. He's no longer just a flat drawing. It creates a little bit of dimension to it. Same as here. Sometimes just going over it is all it takes, is all you need. And turn them around. And see, wherever the pen takes me, then I'll just fill it in. This is the relaxing part. This is the part that I like to do, like just sitting in my chair watching TV. So get it all done, get it stamped, and then just sit down and play. Because painting can wait. This is all so much fun, this part. By following the line along is I'm getting a little bit of inconsistency, so that gives me these little spots to fill in here. This is the doodle part. That was the stamp, this is the doodle. And you can get really creative with this too. I mean, you could have so much fun adding all sorts of other little lines. Don't want to stamp? Add doodles. Create your own little version of corny treats. See, he gets a little bit more character now. And of course, you got to add a little ball on the end there. And it comes up. And see, I went quite a ways that time. You start filling it in. I know my hand is in the way a little bit, but you get the gist. Oh, and this pen, by the way, is a 03. I do think I have that listed in the instructions. If not, it is a 03. I use a 01, 03, oh no, 03, 05, and 08 are my favorite ones to use. I definitely want to fatten up my string, of course. Gotta have that. And then I'm gonna turn it into a bow. So relaxing. there. But see, it's changed already from just flat lines to a little bit more depth. I don't know if you guys can hear those planes out there. It's just incredible. We have 6 water bomber skimmers flying over. The wildfire started up on the hill, and they're hitting it hard today. And yeah, just another add-on to the joys of living in this beautiful Okanagan Valley, dry and brittle. It is forest fire season, but this year in particular has been one that has just been a lot more, I don't know, it's been worse than any other year that we've had, that's for sure. And just when you think it's over, first clear day we've had all month, and poof, fire starts up on the mountains above our airport. Keeping a close eye on it for sure. Okay. And I think he needs a mouth. Just make his mouth kind of fun. Give him a bit of a smirk. A bit of a smirk. And I started adding dots. I love dots. So his cheeks are kind of going to go here. So I'm going to just kind of add little dots where they go. But his eye is going to have an eyeball. Let's get this one. So now the pumpkin, same thing. Get these lines in here. Can't believe I didn't give him a nose. I kept looking at him going, what's wrong with my pumpkin? And I know exactly what's wrong with him. He needs a nose, but just lines. That's all he needs for a nose. Some lines. Okay. And by fattening these lines, he becomes more consistent with the stamps that are in there as well, I find, for me personally. And you can't make a mistake. If you get one that's too wide, it doesn't matter. Just fill it in. Nobody cares. All right. Let's see, got some lines under his 2, 3, 1, 2. These are his character lines. Under there. And then we color in his little teeth. So yeah, we do use these markers for everything. They go a long, long way, surprisingly. You can go into a bigger pen if you want to. Or if you want to use the black Tombow or a fatter marker, the Identa pen, you can too. I like the sketchy look of the pen when I do this. It keeps everything consistent as opposed to the real solid black look. But it's a personal choice. There's no right or wrong. And I could go back and fill these in later with black if I wanted to. Like if I did have the black Identa pen out or the black Tombow out, I could. But it is. I hope you guys find this is as relaxing as I do, because it's just so much fun. See, so now I've got that black and white look going on there. And I will fill his eyes in the same way, but I'm not going to right now. Same as around here. So once I get all the basics in like that, see, now he's got character, he's got some fun lines. Now it's dots. I don't know what you, this is actually really fun too. And if you really want to annoy your spouse when you're watching TV, just get these out and just sit and tap. These are what I call the shading lines. So you treat them like as though you were shading, but they're little dots. And just very lightly tap. And we just go around everything. Not, you know, you don't want to create a solid mess, and don't make a line. Just kind of pop them down randomly. You don't need too many. You can build up more in some spots and less in others. But you'll find them on patterns sometimes, as they're kind of a guide to where to put your shading. But this will actually help build up the shading when we do it as well, with all the transparent color. So if you're not too sure where they go, that's where they go. Think, okay, I'm going to shade here. And of course, this is on your color photo as well, to show you where to put these. You see how it gives it a nice finished look? I think so anyway. But you don't want it to be consistent, like big solid block of dots. You just want to put them at random. And it goes around. A few around the little ghost. Just a few. Don't always have to have a ton. And the guy's going to go with candy corns. And I'm going to go pop out the string a little bit. And you notice I'm only keeping it on the ghost itself. I'm not going into the background with it. Because I only want the texture and details on the ghosty himself. A little bit under his mouth. And around his eyes. And a little bit, why not? And of course on his tag. And a pumpkin.
Gonna go get some Drano or whatever.
And now he's got more texture. He becomes more of a piece of art. I think that's pretty much it for that. Yeah, okay. So that's that part. That's the basic sketch and doodle. And let's go and add in some. So I do have a black Tombow, which I haven't used. I'm not accustomed to using them. I will fill in his eyes, but you can use the Pen too if you want. This one comes in the Galaxy pack, so it's as a secondary pack to buy. It's a great option. Or if you've got like a fatter, like a #1 of the microns, or your fat end of your Pen, all does the same thing. The other thing is, like using the Tombow one, is you got to make sure that wherever you're adding water, that you don't create problems for yourself, because it will smudge. Once it's dry, it's pretty stable. Once it's dry, it pretty much won't go anywhere, but up until that point, it could move. So, but this is going to dry because I'm going to heat set it. That's the thing about these pens too. They have the fat end and they have the skinny end. So you have an end for drawing as well, or for tiny, tiny details. You can also paint these with lamp black if you wanted to too. Like if you just pull out your regular black paint, paint them in. There's really no rules. Black's black. However you get it on here is fine. There. So that is the ghost sketched on there. Now I'm going to go and we're going to put this one on. And the nice thing is they pretty much line up with the paper. Just move it a little bit over. Doesn't really matter where it goes, as long as it's in the center somewhere. So this is the other one, and it'll go on quite quickly. Make sure it's straight. Don't want it too wonky. Straight. And my pen. Alright, where'd it go? Fine, we'll use the pink one. Same thing. Always test your paper. If you notice too that the lines pretty much all disappeared that I used from the graphite. We didn't run into too many issues with them. But we will delete, or not delete, we will erase. Make the little spider, he's drinking from the straw. Because I could. Why not, right? And that's the drink. Always check. Little spider. In the web. You can have so much fun with this spider web if you really want to get into a lot of details for kind of creating. You could fill the whole page with spider webs if you wanted to. Enough to go by. Okay. Can't ever see on the white piece of paper, but we'll start doodling, see if that changes the lighting any for you. So then we start, no, we don't do the doodles. We stamp. Yeah. So now we're going to stamp the rest of the little critters. So we get our block out, and we're going to get our eyeballs, because this one's all about eyeballs. It is. It's all about the eyeballs. So when we do the little eyeballs, one of the things that we're going to do is stick our little things back on so we don't lose the ghost. We don't lose our big things. Is we're going to get our sticky note out, and we are going to stamp ourselves an eyeball. We're going to need an eyeball. So we're going to stamp one. Doesn't need to be perfect. We just want one on here so that we can use it. Because we're putting 3 eyeballs in the bottle, in the jar, so we're going to need to put them on and make a mask. So we're going to cut out our little eyeball. And by the magic of everything, I just happen to have them already cut out. And I'm going to use, I made 2. And the reason I made 2 is because one is going to overlap another, and I'm going to need to create 2 masks. So first off, we are going to create the first stamp with our eyeball towards the bottom of our piece, down the bottom. So get my ink out. And of course, I need flat surface. So I'm going to make my flat surface again. And I'm going to put my first eyeball in between the, down here between the lines. So he's sitting at the bottom of the glass. My first eyeball. Now, if you look by here, the eyeballs are all overlapped. So in order to get these eyeballs behind, we have to create a mask. So I have to mask off this guy first off. And then we're going to do this one right here. Put him on. And you know, of course, move the eyeballs around so he's looking in different directions, of course. Pop that there. Now the reason I have 3 masks is because I now need to keep this one covered and this one covered in order to put this third one in. So we're going to mask this guy off too. And it works out so quick and easy. And there. So now when we take these little masks off, everything is layered the way it should be. And always keep your little masks. I keep them with my stamp sets so that I don't lose them, because they come in so handy for any time you want to go back in here and create something. We'll get our stamp set back. We'll put our little eyeball away. Nothing worse than losing one. Now this guy has, I put the little ghosty at the top of his stick. So of course we're going to have to put that there. I always keep my ink pads covered because I don't want to wreck them. So you want the stick to kind of be in the center, so make sure you get him in there. Here's our ghost. And he has, of course, this little laughing pumpkin in the middle. And I wanted him down a little bit farther, so I figured. And that's okay, we can fix that. And now I got a bigger gap in here that I wanted to before. So you know what I've decided? I'm going to put an eyeball in here. See, everything is fixable. There is nothing that can go wrong. You can fix whatever you want. And I think we need another eyeball on the garnish to fix my little spot. So which way? I think you should be looking down. My ghost went a little higher than I had expected. There, see? Everything's fixable. Nothing is not. And his little tag has, I got my eye on you, because I think that's really funny. And it'll fit in that little tag. Like so I get my little thing right there. And stamp them in there. It's like rest in pieces. There's just some little Halloween phrases that are just way too fun not to use. All right. See, you can't wreck anything, even if you try. Okay. And I'm just going to heat set this only because I'm using the Versaclare ink, and it seems to be, you have to dry it. Okay. So, back to our pen. I kind of screwed this up a little bit, so I'm just going to fix it. See? Everything's fixable. And so my little line, my little stick goes through everything. And I made it a little bit thicker, just so that it would. And I put a little dot on the top because, you know, the top of the stick. Fill in your stick. So, and then of course we're back to the same old thing. We're gonna fill this in. We're gonna line it. Always amazes me that I can do a straight line. I couldn't do it if I tried any other way, but I can do it here. So, strings going out. Need those. And go around here. There's our glass, and my little spider. It's a straw right there. He's wiggly. He's a spider. Everybody needs a spider. And he's got little martini bubbles because, of course, he drank too much. Because, you know, he's having martinis there. His big eyes. Leave a little white for his eyes. Stripes for his glass. He's a thirsty guy. No feet. And I did make a mistake and color his eyes in, so we're gonna make his eyes just a little bit bigger. See, you can fix anything. Put your mind to it. He's got even bigger eyes. Because he was black. See, you just can't make mistakes. If you do and it's that bad, well, you just toss it out. And away it goes. And let's see. I had some fun with this guy. Added some doodles. Why not? I filled his mouth in. You don't have to. I just did. I thought it was fun. And let's see. Oh yeah, spider web. Just pick a line, go for it. There. Does need to grab at some point, so it's grabbing there. He's a little decorative. I like curlicues. They're just kind of fun to add in. So, anything down here. You can get as creative on here as you want. I did a few little fun things. Just a little bit comes out there. No reason. You can build this up depending on the size of the surface that you want to use too, like if you're taking it right off to an edge or something. Okay, so with this, the same thing for all the fattening of the lines, which I will speed up the camera for just to finish it off. But for this, what's different is that the curlicues, I like to definitely fatten, so I'll just kind of go around them and fill in these little lines. Just to start with, just to finish them off. Because I like curlicues. I just do. So I'll fatten them up, but I don't follow the entire length around. I kind of end it somewhere and get a little bit fatter here, a little skinnier there. And sometimes it's just a case of going over the line, just to give it that little bit more. So these are the center pieces. Fatten it up here and there. Curlicue. It really is just, you know, creative, however much you want to do. You don't even have to do any of these line fattenings if you don't want to. Just do the doodle. Yeah, just keep going till you get bored. I could actually fill up this whole page if I was just sitting on my chair doing nothing. It would be so fun. Hello, minions. I should be playing music for this. I could be telling you a ton of stories too, but hopefully you're painting, you're working along with me and just creating some fun things here. I've just become just addicted to this. I just find it just like super relaxing. So to finish the spider web up, I just picked a few stripes and I thought, you know, I'm just going to add a few little lines just to give it a little bit of a Zen-tangly look. Not a lot, but you can do more if you want. I just picked things and just did lines. So I didn't want it to be too many of them, but I just wanted a few. D. Yeah, it's fun. There's a good spot. Cool. Okay, so then of course, you know, I'm gonna fatten my lines, definitely up around the top. This also helps you get, like, if you weren't round enough or your lines didn't match up, this is always a great way to get those lines to match up, which is another reason why I do it. You know, if you had a mistake or a line that went somewhere you didn't want it to be, it's a great way. Down here. Now this is where you would find that you could do it a lot too. It's like this base is not even. It doesn't have to be either. It's just wonky. It's just all in fun. And definitely I did under here. And the reason I did down here is because this is the bottom of the glass. And so I did this darker spot under here. Just for fun. Just to darken that up a bit. Here. Oops. Gotta make the tag and gotta make my string bigger. All about the string. Thanks. Yep, finish up this. So there. And this tag, I did some little stripes on it. It's something a little different. And of course, you know, because we had to have a few dots. We need our dots. Didn't put as many on here, but you know what? It's put a few here. Kind of at the spider webby lines. If you want. This one was a lot of this design here was about bubbles, because I really wanted bubbles in here. So I only put the little shading lines down here, and then we have bubbles because he's like a major cocktail. So I did different sized bubbles. We said some sort of potion, I think, but we don't know what it is. All I know is the spider's drinking it. It's a little bit loopy. You know what I'm saying? And just a few bigger ones, smaller. Don't make them all the same size. And a few that have kind of wandered out here. And a few. There. Okay, so this is all the inking. So this is the end of part 1. Get all your inking done, and then part 2 will come, and it will be all the painting. It's gonna be fun. See you in a bit.